I walked into the living room, holding the graduation sign for Khai. The house was quiet, filled with the usual still air of held expectations. Khai looked up from the dining table and smiled when he saw the sign. His smile was small but bright, like a spark trying to grow into a flame. I wanted that flame to burn freely for once. He had worked so hard to get here, to finish with top honors. 4 years of late nights and quiet determination deserved to be seen. I placed the sign on the table, imagining the celebration in our backyard. Just food, laughter, friends, and a moment where Khai could simply feel proud. But before I could say anything, my parents walked in with my sister. Their expressions told me the conversation was already decided. My father spoke first, his voice heavy with authority. "We've talked, and we think it's best there be no celebration for Khai this year." The room stopped. My breath stopped. Even the air seemed to freeze in place. I asked why, though I already felt the answer forming like a bruise. My sister stepped forward with a carefully measured tone. Her 2 children had recently failed to make the school team. She said they were fragile, emotional, and easily discouraged. She said seeing a celebration for Khai would make them feel lesser. She said we should consider their feelings first. I stared at her, not angry, just stunned. Khai sat still, shoulders tensed as if bracing for impact. He had spent years shrinking himself to not cause trouble. And now he was being asked to disappear again. I asked one question. Does my son not deserve to feel proud of himself? My mother sighed, as if I was being unreasonable. She said humility was important. She said we should avoid creating jealousy. She said love means sacrifice. But sacrifice had only ever flowed in one direction in this house. I looked at Khai and saw the light draining from his eyes. I knew that look too well, because I had lived with it for years. It was the look of quiet acceptance of being made small. The look of someone taught to fold themselves to fit others. I felt something break inside me. Not loud. Not violent. Just a final thread, snapping after years of strain. I stood up and picked up the sign from the table. My sister scoffed, thinking it was a surrender. But it was. It was a decision. I said, there will be no party, and we will not be staying here. No one spoke. My father looked shocked. My mother froze in place. My sister tried to dismiss it as drama. But I didn't argue. I simply called Khai to gather his things. He didn't hesitate. He didn't look back. We left that house with no celebration planned. But for the first time in years, we walked toward something that was ours. We arrived at Mrs. Hoa's small studio, well after dark. The air smelled faintly of old wood and rain-soaked soil. She handed me the key without asking for explanations. Her kindness was simple, quiet, and without conditions. Khai placed our single suitcase on the floor and exhaled slowly. The room was small, just a bed, a desk, and a narrow window. But there was space to breathe, and that felt new. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to steady my thoughts. My phone buzzed again and again, with messages from my family. Accusations. Blame. Claims that I had overreacted. I turned the phone face down on the table and let silence take over. Silence had always been heavy in my parents' house. Here, silence felt almost peaceful. Khai sat beside me, pulling his hoodie tighter around his shoulders. He didn't speak, but his presence was steady. We didn't need words. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine tomorrow. Not in fear, but in planning. I listed what needed to be done. Separate our phone plan. Change the mailing address. Look for an affordable apartment. Submit paperwork for utilities. Every step felt like cutting a thread that had held me in place for too long. The weight of dependency was slipping away, replaced by uncertainty. But uncertainty was still freedom. The next morning, sunlight came through the window in soft golden strips. Khai stretched, rubbed his eyes, and offered a faint smile. He asked if we could make breakfast. We only had instant noodles, but we heated water and ate quietly. It felt like the first meal of a different life. After breakfast, Khai asked if he could go to the community center. He wanted to help with the STEM class again. He said he felt useful there. He said he felt seen. I told him yes, of course, go. I watched him leave, shoulders straight, steps certain. He was not running away. He was walking towards something he deserved. I opened my laptop and began making calls. Customer service lines. Government forms. Paperwork that required patience. Every time they asked for the account holder's name, I answered. My name is N. Not my father's. Not tied to anyone else's authority. Just mine. My hands trembled, but not from fear. From the unfamiliar weight of autonomy. Around noon, I received a message from the neighbor. She had left a box by the door. I opened it to find towels, cups, and a small tin of tea. No expectations. No moral lesson attached. Just kindness. I breathed in slowly, feeling something warm spread in my chest. Khai returned in the late afternoon, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. He told me he had helped a group of children build a small robot. They cheered when the lights blinked correctly. He laughed telling the story, a laugh I hadn't heard in so long. For the first time, the future didn't feel like a burden. It felt like possibility. Khai began spending most afternoons at the community center. The space was small, filled with folding tables and donated supplies. Yet there was life there, genuine and unguarded. Children gathered around him with wide eyes and messy notebooks. They asked questions faster than he could answer. He never grew impatient. He explained circuits with gentle hands and steady tone. He showed them how wires carried ideas, not just electricity. He laughed when small robots spun in circles instead of moving forward. The room echoed with joy, not judgment. I watched from the doorway sometimes, quietly. He didn't notice, and that made it better. He was not performing. He was simply being himself. One afternoon, a local volunteer suggested filming short tutorials. Just small lessons to help more kids learn. Khai hesitated at first. He wasn't used to being seen. But he recorded anyway, using his old phone propped on a stack of books. He spoke clearly and carefully, making sure no one felt lost. We uploaded the video without expecting anything. But overnight, it began spreading. People shared it with friends and siblings. Comments appeared slowly, then rapidly. Thank you for explaining this so simply. My son watched this 3 times and finally understood. I wish more teachers had this patience. Khai read the comments with disbelief. His hands shook slightly, not in fear, but in recognition. Someone saw him. Someone appreciated him. Not because of blood. Not because of duty. But because of who he was. I saw a new light in his eyes. Not pride, but quiet belonging. One evening, while we ate dinner on the floor of the studio, he spoke softly. Mom, I didn't know helping people could feel like this. His voice trembled just once. As if I matter. My heart tightened. I kept my voice steady. You have always mattered. He smiled, but there was sadness behind it. Not in that house, he whispered. The words were soft, but they cut deep. We sat in silence for a moment, letting honesty settle gently. The next week, the community center asked him to assist a full summer program. He would help teach robotics to a larger group of students. They offered a small stipend. Khai tried to say no. He said I was already paying rent. He said he didn't want me to struggle. I reached for his hand and held it. Your job is not to worry about survival, I told him. Your job is to grow. He nodded, though tears gathered in his eyes. The first day of the summer program, I dropped him off. Sunlight reflected in the windows of the classroom. He walked with confident steps. Not bold, Not loud, just sure. When I returned to pick him up, I heard laughter through the door. Clear, bright, unforced laughter. Khai was standing among students, guiding them as they adjusted tiny sensors. His smile was unshaken. His presence was full. I realized something then. He no longer needed permission to shine. He only needed space. My phone rang on a quiet Friday afternoon while I was finishing work. It was my mother's number, a call I had avoided for weeks. I hesitated before answering, already knowing the tone I would hear. Her voice was soft, too soft, as if rehearsed for sympathy. She said the family wanted to make peace and move forward. She said everyone missed us, especially Khai. She said it was time to be united again, like before. Then she mentioned graduation celebration. A joint celebration for Khai and TH letter 1EA3, OS 2 children. She said it would be fair if all the kids were recognized together. She said no, one should be made to feel less important. She used the word fairness, the way someone uses perfume to mask something sour. I stayed silent, letting her speak. She explained that TH letter 1EA30 and my father would plan everything. The party would be at the old house, in the backyard. She said I would only need to show up. She said we should not make things complicated. But I felt the old weight pressing against my chest. The same weight of expectations, control, and quiet erasure. I imagined Khai standing in that yard. I imagined his name pushed to the side of a collective message. I imagined his achievement softened into a blur. I imagined him forced to shrink so someone else could feel comfortable. I would not let that happen again. So I said one sentence, slow and steady. Khai will not be part of a shared celebration. She went silent, shocked that I did not bend. Her tone shifted, sharp beneath the softness. She said I was risking the family bond. She said I was selfish. She said I was teaching my son to be ungrateful. I exhaled slowly, feeling calm instead of shaken. I said I was teaching him to value himself. Then I ended the call. That night, Khai sat beside me on the floor. The studio lights were dim, shadows gentle and quiet. He asked what the call had been about. I told him everything. He listened without interruption, expression thoughtful. When I finished, he asked one question. Mom, will we celebrate, just us? I nodded. We'll celebrate with those who actually wish us well. The idea came naturally, like a breath finally released. Not a party to display success, but a gathering to honor growth and kindness. I searched for a location that night. I found a park near the lake, with open air and wooden tables. The place felt warm, open, free. The next morning, I went to the city office to request a permit. The clerk asked the purpose of the event. I wrote, gratitude gathering for community and support. It felt right. I called the community center and invited the STEM volunteers. I told Khai he could invite anyone who made him feel seen. He smiled, slow and genuine. A smile with no hesitation hiding behind it. We spent the week preparing small details together. Not grand decorations, just simple things that brought joy. Khai designed a banner with bright, hopeful colors. It read, "Thank you for believing in me." No comparison. No competition. Just truth. Every step felt like planting something new. Not just a celebration, but a reclaiming. A life no longer shaped by someone else's shadow. The day of the picnic arrived with warm sunlight and a gentle breeze. We set up early, spreading simple tablecloths across wooden benches. Khai hung his banner between two trees with careful hands. It fluttered softly in the wind, bright and hopeful. People began to arrive in small groups. The volunteers from the community center brought snacks and laughter. The children rushed to Khai immediately, excited to show him small robots they built. He knelt beside them, smiling, guiding them with patient gestures. I watched him, feeling the kind of pride that fills the chest quietly, not loudly. This was the celebration he deserved. Simple, honest, surrounded by care, not comparison. We began serving food, passing plates, sharing stories. There was no tension in the air, only warmth. But warmth does not stop storms from arriving. I saw my family before they spoke. They entered the park in a tight formation, like a judgment approaching. My sister TH letter 1EA30 stood in front, arms crossed, eyes sharp. My parents followed with expressions of weary disappointment. The picnic grew quieter as they approached. Whispers moved like small ripples through the crowd. TH letter 1EA30 didn't greet anyone. She went straight for the banner. She read it with a scoff. "Thank you for believing in me," she repeated, voice dripping with sarcasm. She turned to me. "So now you're acting like everyone here loves him more than family." I didn't answer. She didn't wait for one. She raised her voice, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You made your own son arrogant. You think he's better than everyone else." Khai stood up then. Not defensive. Not angry. Just calm. He faced her with steady eyes. "Aunt TH letter 1EA30. I don't think I'm better than anyone." His tone was even, almost gentle. "I only wanted to celebrate something I worked very hard for." She laughed sharply. "My kids worked hard too. They just didn't get results like you." Her words struck the air like stones. The children nearby went quiet. The volunteers looked away, uncomfortable. And then, unexpectedly, her daughter stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she spoke clearly. "Mom, I was never upset about Kai's success." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I just didn't want to disappoint you." The silence that followed was heavy and deep. TH letter 1EA30 opened her mouth, but no words formed. The truth had settled, visible to everyone. Khai took a breath and addressed the gathering. His voice carried, not loud but strong. "I used to think I had to stay small to keep peace. But peace built on silence is not real peace. I am grateful for everyone here who let me grow." The applause started softly, then spread. Not forced. Not dramatic. Just honest recognition. TH letter 1EA30 stepped back, shaken. I wiped her cheeks gently. My parents stood uncertain, unable to control the narrative anymore. The moment was not loud victory. It was quiet truth. And truth is louder than pride. The air after the confrontation felt still, as if the world was holding its breath. People slowly returned to conversations, softer now, more thoughtful. Khai continued helping the children adjust their robots, his hands steady. But I could see a different kind of peace in his expression. Not relief. Not victory. Just the quiet certainty of someone who finally knows themselves. I sat on a bench nearby, wiping her eyes with the hem of her sleeve. Khai walked over to her and sat without saying anything. They shared silence, the kind that understands without explanation. After a moment, I spoke, her voice small and tired. "I always wanted to be proud of something too." Khai nodded slowly. "You already have things to be proud of." Mai shook her head. But they're never enough for her. Khai didn't argue. He just let the truth sit between them like a fragile object. Their mother stood at a distance, watching them. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. Not physically, but in certainty. The certainty she always held like a shield had cracked. My parents remained near the picnic tables, unsure whether to leave or stay. They were no longer the center of the room. They were simply part of the crowd now. It was the first time I had ever seen them in that position. The volunteers continued serving food, soft laughter returning slowly. Life never stops for discomfort. It just waits for truth to pass through. As the sun lowered toward the horizon, a calm golden light filled the park. The children lined up to show their final robot test run. Khai stood among them, clapping as each one tried. When it was time to leave, families gathered bags and blankets. People hugged us gently, thanking us for the invitation. They thanked Khai for what he had given their children. Not achievement, not comparison, but confidence. One of the volunteers approached with an envelope. She said it had arrived at the center earlier that day. It was addressed to Khai. We opened it together on the picnic bench. Inside was a formal letter from the university nearby. They had seen the video lessons. They wanted to offer Khai a summer internship in their robotics lab. Paid, structured, mentored. Khai stared at the letter, hands trembling just slightly. His lips parted, but no words came out. I touched his shoulder, letting him find his voice. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet and full. I didn't think something like this could be for someone like me. I met his eyes. It is for exactly someone like you. He folded the letter carefully, like something sacred. My parents watched from a distance, hearing enough to understand. They saw the result of love without conditions. They saw what growth looks like when it is not chained. They did not speak. No apology came. But they understood. And sometimes, understanding is louder than regret. As we walked home, the sky shifting into evening blue, Khai walked ahead of me. His steps were steady, confident, unhurried. The world was no longer something he had to fold himself to fit inside. It was something he could step into, fully, without shrinking. We moved into a small apartment a month later, just a short walk from the park. The windows were wide and filled the rooms with morning light. We bought second-hand furniture and assembled it together, laughing at crooked screws. Nothing matched, but everything felt ours. Khai started his internship at the robotics lab with quiet excitement. He left early each morning with his backpack and returned with stories of progress. His voice no longer hesitated when describing what he loved. He spoke with certainty, not permission. Sometimes we would sit on the floor at night, drinking tea and saying nothing. Silence no longer felt heavy. It felt peaceful. Every now and then, my phone would buzz with messages from my family. Some were polite, some hesitant, some full of words they didn't yet know how to say. I did not block them, but I didn't bend either. Healing can take time, and not every bond must return to its old shape. One evening, Khai looked at our small home and smiled softly. "Mom, we're okay now," he said. His voice was steady, warm, unforced. And I realized he was right. We were not just surviving anymore. We were living.